This is A Different Perspective with Kevin Randle. A retired U.S. Lieutenant Colonel, Kevin Randle has been studying UFOs for nearly 50 years. Kevin has investigated some of the most famous UFO cases in the world and has been consulted for dozens of documentaries about UFOs. Considered one of the leading experts into the Roswell UFO crash of 1947, Kevin has written more than 25 books about UFOs, including the recently published Roswell in the 21st Century. Now, here is the host of A Different Perspective, Kevin Randle.
And we are back after a brief hiatus with another special report of A Different Perspective. And truly, I am the host, Kevin Randle. For those of you who have been paying attention to my blog, which allows me to say, it's at www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com, you'll notice I do a lot of UFO stuff, but I also deal with some of the treasure hunting programs and the searches for gold, like the Curse of Oak Island. And I've been following Treasure Quest, Snake Island, during its inception. One of the people on that was Captain Keith Cappy Plaskett, and I've managed to make contact with him. So we'll be chatting with him about his experiences with that program and where things have gone and where they may be going, and from what he knows. I will tell you that he has a long and illustrious career in the armed forces, having served in many wars, including Vietnam and Iraq. He joined the military right out of school and took on some of the most dangerous assignments, including disposing of mines and bombs, paratrooping, and diving as a Navy frogman. He later became a sea captain and served on missions to protect several U.S. presidents. More recently, Captain Keith taught classes on terrorism and bomb dismantling. Besides his military background, Captain Keith also has a great deal of experience with underwater excavations and archaeology. He currently lives and works in Peru, though I understand he's now visiting in Florida. I just throw that in for some reason. But he lives and works in Peru, finding and documenting underwater shipwrecks and such things. He is also collaborating with the Peruvian government to develop an underwater archaeology program to help preserve their archaeological heritage. And since his credentials have been questioned on many occasions, and I've seen some of that stuff online, I will let you know I have seen and have a copy of his DD Form 214, which gives me his military background, so I know exactly what it is, and I have seen nothing in his statements that he has made about that are untrue. I've also have various copies of his master certificates that shows he is capable of captaining various sizes of boats and ships and that sort of thing on many oceans and many lands. I have found nothing to suggest that he has intentionally misrepresented his record. Captain Keith, welcome to A Different Perspective.
Hey, Kevin. Thank you for having me on.
I've been interested in Treasure Quest, Snake Island, since I first blundered into it by mistake and found it interesting. Found some of the stuff that they were doing interesting. How did you get involved with that program?
You know, I was actually probably one of the only or the only active, undersea explorer, in with the rest of the cast on there. And so I was living in Peru, and let me set the record straight on this part. I'm actually over in Brazil right now. I've been in Brazil for almost 3 years. But I'm getting ready to go back to Peru in about 10 days. I've got a project there, an undersea project that I'm getting ready to go work on. But how I got involved was at that time when Discovery Channel was putting this together. Apparently, the production company that was working with them or for them, I'm not sure, had sent out a flyer from L.A. Their offices in L.A. seeking treasure hunters. Anybody that wants to make a treasure hunting show, I guess. And so, of course, I never seen any of any of those brochures or any of that information. Somehow they got a hold of me, and I'm not really sure how they did. But I was on my way out the door. I checked my email for the last time when I was up in northern Peru, and I have my grandsons. I got 5 grandsons. One of them actually is on Pittsburgh Pirate baseball team. Just got drafted college drafted this few months ago, actually. And but the other grandsons I have, I promised them once they graduate high school, turn 18, graduate high school, that I'd bring them down to Peru so they can live with the community people and see what life's about, how other people live outside the United States. Give them a better perspective, so to speak.
No, it's a different perspective.
Oh, for sure. Culture shock for most people. But I wanted them to experience that before they started the university, and they could actually have a better feel of what other people, how they live, and we're not in this box that we're in the United States sometimes if you never get out. So anyway, I was on the way out to the Amazon. I was teaching them to scuba dive and take them to the Amazon jungle. That was the three things my goals and my plans were for the 3 months they're going to be with me. So I was on the way out with my first grandson, Christian, and we were heading to the Amazon. And so we went up to the Amazon for a few weeks. And they had contacted me, and
they being the Discovery Channel?
The Mac Pictures production company, who's actually doing the production work for Discovery. I think they've contracted through Discovery Channel. And so they contacted me, and so I sent an email back real quickly because I was on the way out. And I said, look, I'm on my way out to the Amazon, and I'll be gone for a couple of weeks. And so as soon as I get back, I'll give you a call and see what this is all about. So I did. Had a great time in the Amazon, and came back. I contacted them, and they started asking me about, what I was doing in Peru and some of the projects that I was working on. And one of them was the project where I was putting together the first marine archaeology program in South America, and with 2 universities in Peru. So I was working on that, and that was a 7-year project to get that portion of my life taken care of, as far as trying to leave something back, leave something behind. Yeah.
So you contacted them, they got back in touch with you, and what transpired from there?
I had several interviews with them, just like we're doing now, basically, and sent them a lot of information about, like I say, the projects I was working on. I was in search of El Dorado, like everybody else that goes to South America, it seems like. And there was 7 lost cities, 5 in North Peru and 2 in South Ecuador. And so I sent them all this information. I did all these interviews, and they put their package together with the other cast members, which I hadn't knew anything about. I never met them or knew even who they were interviewing. So all of a sudden, they said, well, we're going to do a chem test. I'm thinking, what's a chem test? I've never done anything on TV, so I wasn't really sure with some of the language. So I found out that it's a chemical test to see how we bond or how we look on camera, when we're interacting with each other.
So they're basically casting it like it's a television program, as opposed to going out and you calling them and saying, hey, I'm looking for this treasure, you want to come along, type thing. They're casting a program with an eye to look for a treasure.
Yes, that's apparently what they were doing. They were trying to put together a reality TV show, and so we'll get into that a little bit later. But yeah, so we all came out to Hollywood, and we took a boat out to an island out there, and off of Los Angeles, I guess. And we just were doing some casting out there and making some, videos and all that. And so they put their package together, and I think they sent it to Discovery, and we were picked up. And so next thing I know, and this was a period of about probably 3 or 4 months that this happened. And so next thing I know, I'm getting a ticket to go to Brazil. And they sent me a little bit of information about the show. The show was The Treasure of the Trinity. And it's basically the history of when the first conquistador, Alexo Garcia, came to Brazil, South Brazil, Santa Catalina Island, and got a handful of men and went into the jungle. And I'm assuming that he probably went across the pre-colonial trail called the Peru Trail, which is a footpath that connects the Atlantic and the Pacific, which most people don't even know anything about or even heard of. That would have been the easiest way for him to get across. But he was heading with this group into the jungle, and he met with the Guarani tribes, and he enlisted like 2,000 Guarani tribes.
And they're, of course, the local population. They're the indigenous peoples.
Yeah, they're the indigenous Indians of that area. And so he enlisted 2,000 of them. He continued on to the Andes of Peru, which was actually the southern region of the Inca Empire. King Huayna was actually in north, and the second part of his empire, which was up in Ecuador, in Quito. He was all the way up there. So when these guys came across with the Guarani Indians, they were, robbing and stealing all the gold and silver they could. Mount Potosi is in Bolivia, and that's the biggest actually silver mine in the world, which is still active right now. And so he was in that area, and so they were able to attack these towns and get a lot of the priests and their pagan religion. They had a lot of gold ornaments, and they wore a lot of gold ornaments. And he was able to capture these things and head back to Brazil, back to Catalina. And
we're gonna have to take a break here.
Okay.
As you can tell, when we come back, we'll talk about Snake Island specifically and how you got out there and what the snakes were doing. We will be right back right after this.
Okay.
I am joined by Captain Keith Plaskett, who is Cappy from Treasure Quest Snake Island. And when we left, we were talking about the conquistadors and a bunch of people stealing gold and silver from the Inca. We're going to move it back to Brazil now and Snake Island. So Discovery is putting together this program. You're involved in it. You're in Brazil. And the big thing about this is Snake Island, where the golden lance, which is a pit viper, I believe, one of the deadliest snakes in the world, have taken over this island, and supposedly the treasure is hidden on this island. So you're in Brazil. Did you know you were going to end up on Snake Island, and how did you get out there?
Well, no, we didn't really know anything about what was happening. Once I first got there to Brazil, we flew into Sao Paulo, and then we went to an island called Ilhabela. And that's where the treasure was taken eventually by Cavendish when he robbed it from the monastery in the city on the coast there. Name escapes me real quick, but so anyway, the island is 20 miles off this coastal city, and so one of the monks had followed, I guess, the trail and captured that treasure, brought it back, and when they were kicked out by the king of Portugal. Because they'd made all these Jesuit missions and they were protecting all the indigenous Indians, and they were actually growing more sugar cane than the local owners, and the local owners wanted that land and they wanted those workers. So the Jesuits were kicked out. And so what we believe the story happened was they took that treasure that they brought back from the Incas that they'd captured and planted it on Snake Island, because it would have been, basically nobody could have got on the island without getting, killed, eaten, or whatever by these snakes. And so that was, we believe they were going to come back years later and get the, get the treasure. And they buried other treasure in other places, some of this treasure in other places around the missions that they had. And
so you're there in Brazil now with these people that you basically just met.
Correct.
You've bonded sort of bit. You're on a boat 20 miles off the coast of Brazil. And now you're going to be going on to Snake Island to see to find the treasure.
Yeah, that's correct. And the name of the city where the monastery was is I forgot it again. Well, anyway, we were on the boat on the island, and one of the crews was split up into two crews and went on the island. Part of the crew went there, and the other crew, part with me on the boat, stayed on the boat. And so we were doing double crew shots basically. And this island was, it was totally infested with snakes. They ended up getting me on the island eventually. I hate snakes. And Santos was the name of that city. I couldn't remember off the island, off the coast there. But I got on the island, and this was no kidding. These snakes were everywhere, and there was a very small trail that we had to go to transverse the island up to the lighthouse, and then to the other end of the island. And so this trail, in some places, was very slick when we were, heading in the elevated situation. And sometimes, it would slip a little bit. But if you ever slipped to the point where you fell into the bush, you're going to be, there's no way we'd make it out. If you got bit once, you might make it, but if twice, these snakes are so venomous that the poachers go on this island. If you get a snake that's say 5 feet long, they sell them for $40,000 because they use this venom to do medical research for cancer and other types of diseases.
Well, how big is the crew traipsing around the island? There's you and the people who are supposedly exploring for the treasure, but you've got cameramen and soundmen and a doctor and all of this sort of thing.
Yeah, we've got well, first of all, we've got the government folks that the Institute of Butantan in Sao Paulo. We had these snake folks, and we had two doctors, one that stayed closer on land to the evacuation place, and one of the doctors was with us, a specialized snake doctor. And so we had venom in both places.
You mean anti-venom? Anti-venom.
I mean anti-venom, excuse me, anti-venom. And so we were carrying this, and we had the doctors, we had our cast, 5 people, we had 2 cameramen, and we had a sound man, and we had that was it basically on the island. They didn't really like. They said this is the most people that's ever been on the island at one time. That they've taken on the island, and so because
how much time did you actually spend on the island looking for the treasure?
I would say the shooting was probably a week long, right around a week.
But you weren't staying on the island that whole week.
I wasn't. I stayed on the boat. But no, we would transverse back and forth from the island to the boat. I think the other crew that was on the island stayed on the island one night because they were doing night scenes on the island with the golden lance head.
So you're saying they were doing night scenes? I mean, they were filming stuff to cut into it, like you were on the island all night?
Well, yeah. I mean, they were on the island all night, but they, like I said, they were filming. They were filming different things. What's it like on the island at night, type of thing. Where's the snakes at? We had infrared lights to light up the snakes and this type of thing.
How often? Well, I was going to say, how much treasure hunting did you actually do during that week you were there?
Well, I was, like I said, I stayed on the boat most of the time. We had, the team that was on the island, they had all the sophisticated electronics, so they were looking for caves, basically. We were looking for caves to see where this stuff might have been stashed. And so they scoured the island fairly quickly. It's not that big of an island, pretty small island, actually. And, yeah, so, and my side of it was, they want me to go on the island. I said, look, I'm the sea captain here, It's like, plus I hate snakes. And and so I said, who's going to rescue you guys if I go over and I get killed by a snake or I get beaten by a snake? Somebody's got to get this, somebody's got to be the rescuer here, Let's think about this. And so, then the dang boat started sinking, and that was no kidding. And I had to end up patching it, and then we headed back into Santos at that point, because I didn't want to stay out any longer. Plus, there was a storm coming.
So you were there about a week,
mm-hmm.
all told, and you found hints that there had been a treasure there, or you found indications it might have been moved. What did you find?
Well, that's whatever you've seen on the video is what I seen. So I wasn't there. They found a box that was apparently a box that held some kind of, it was an old box, part of a box, part of a lid.
I was going to say they just found a lid. They couldn't really tell what it might have held and how long it had been there, or anything about it.
Yeah. Well, from what I've seen, because like I said, I wasn't there on that particular part of the shooting, but I think personally I would have did a little digging. And they tried with a metal detector, but the metal detector only goes so far. It doesn't go that deep. Being a treasure hunter myself, I would have made some test holes in that cave where that box was at to see if there was something deeper. If they missed. But that's just me. I mean.
So that was pretty much the first season. You're mucking about on the island. You found some hints that the treasure had been moved back to the mainland, I think, and they came back for the second season, and that's where things kind of went weird on us, I guess you would say.
Well, what the thing was, we didn't find the treasure. Half the treasure was left at the Guanese village when Alexio Garcia and the 2,000 Guanese Indians started coming back from Peru. Half the Indians rebelled against the other half, plus Garcia. He was killed, and apparently there must have been a Jesuit priest in there, because that's how the treasure ended up at the Jesuit chapel there in Santos. And so years later, here comes John Cavendish, the pirate over from Peru, and he attacked the city and got the treasure, took it to Isabella, and then later they got it back and took it to Snake Island.
But you found no treasure.
That's what we believe. I mean, we don't know for sure if that's the story. I mean, that's.
But you found no treasure on the island.
No treasure on the island.
And you found there was
no treasure in season 2. I mean, season one.
Yeah. So we go to season 2. We're now on the mainland, and I forget where you started out. Paraguay or Uruguay?
No, we're still in Argentina. We're on the Paraná River in Argentina.
Okay.
That's where we started out. Where they told us, I don't know where they got the information, but where they said the Indian village, the Guanese village was where it was attacked. So the other half of that treasure was around there. They suspected. So that was a new treasure hunt at that point to try to figure out where that part of the treasure is. Because we figured the other treasures probably ended up back in Portugal.
So you're on the river, you're on your boat, you're maneuvering around there. You end up in a town where they've talking to somebody who has a silver bar that he got from somewhere, and he claims it is part of his treasure. And that they met with him, and I don't know where you were at that point. But I know where I am at this point, which is I'm going to have to take another break here. When we come back, we'll talk about the second season of Treasure Quest Snake Island and get a little bit deeper into that. I've got a lot of stuff on the blog at www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com that you can take a look at my interpretations of this over the week or the months that it took place. Website is www.CaptainKeithPlaskett, that's all one word, .com if you want to take a look at that. And take a look at the X Zone Broadcast Network as well for listings of other programs. We will be back right after this. I am here with Captain Keith Plaskett, he of Treasure Quest Snake Island. We've moved into the second season, and we're going to have to move a little rapidly into this to get everything covered that I'd like to. You started out in Argentina. You're on the river. There was a point where you're at a town, and you hear somebody's got a piece of or a bar of silver that came from this treasure trove, the treasure of the Trinity. And 2 or 3 of the people go out to meet with the guy. They see the bar. He wants $10,000 for it, but they pay him $1,000 to find out where he got it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's the storyline. Nobody knows where that particular bar came from, and I'm not even sure if that was even part of the Inca treasure. You don't really know. The history on this whole thing is correct. And your listeners need to understand that they put together a storyline, and they try to stick to the storyline with the history of it, what we're actually doing. And so, we shoot, hours and hours and hours, hundreds of scenes, and it ends up 98% of those scenes are ended up on the editing room floor. They're cut. So they can make you look bad or make you look good. They can make the story do this, make the story do that. And so I think that's probably what's going on here.
But the point simply is they met with a guy. He claimed to have a bar from the treasure, and they paid him money to find out where it came from. And then you guys go to that location.
Yeah, at this point we're following clues. We're trying to follow clues to find out where this treasure might be. And so that led us to connection with the ancient or the old chiefs of the Guarani Indians, and they had some old stories that the treasure might have been hidden in a cave.
Well, wait, before you got there, you went to the, what is it, the Reducción de Nuestra Señora de Santa Ana mission?
Yes. Yeah, Santa Ana. That was on the way to the village.
Yes.
The Santa Ana mission. Now we tracked through the jungle. We went down to the boat. Got on a boat and traveled on the river, and we traveled through the jungle, and then we came up on Santa Ana.
But all of that was unnecessary.
Well, at this point, we don't really know. The cast members don't know. We're just following directions.
I understood.
You know what I'm saying?
But those of us who have Google Earth, which is practically everybody in the free world, were able to plug in the name of the mission, and we see it's a tourist attraction, and there's a paved highway that goes right by it. And there's a town not far away, and I put this on the blog at kevinrandle.blogspot.com, that there was it a Sheraton Resort Hotel there that you could stay in for $300 a night. So I'm wondering why are you traipsing through the jungle to get to this mission when you probably could have driven there?
Well, probably it has something to do with the storyboard and the producers that put this together. I mean, hindsight, of course, we see all that, but at the time, and we're actually looking for clues. We're thinking we got something going on here, and we're on the trail. We're on the trail of something. Silver bar, maybe that part of the treasure. I don't know.
But when you get to the mission, isn't it kind of a dead giveaway that this is a tourist attraction?
No, actually, when we got to the mission, we came out of the jungle and we come into this open field, and of course, the lawn was cut, I guess, and so there wasn't any tourists around, and we didn't see anybody else. But we went into the ruins and started doing some metal detecting. And on the one side of the ruins is a ancient colonial era graveyard that the grave robbers had been in there, some years back, and had broke into the crypts and broke into the coffins, and the coffins were laying around open. The stench was pretty strong still from the dead and stuff. But yeah, we shot in there, and then we trekked back out, and that was that scene as far as we know. We weren't staying in the Sheraton Hotel, no, I'll say that.
But the point simply is the Sheraton Hotel is close by, and it's not the program gave the impression that you guys had to trek through jungle for hours and hours and hours to get to this place, as if it was some very remote area, and it's not remote at all. And I think that's one of the problems that I know some of the people that I'm in contact with had with the program. Once we were able to locate the mission and see that sort of thing, we began to wonder about the reality of the whole program.
Well, maybe Discovery needs to rename this show, not reality, this type of situation, not reality TV, but entertainment TV. That would be my take.
Oh, absolutely. So that you found no treasure around the mission, of course, and you go off to meet with the local indigenous people.
Correct.
And they did they provide any clues for you?
Yeah, we went to this little village, and there, obviously there's roads and stuff that go into it, so they're connected to civilization of some type.
Yeah, I think the
Modern
guy wearing the
civilization.
I think the guy wearing the old Navy T-shirt was kind of a giveaway that they are connected to civilization.
Yeah, yeah. There's not too many tribes in this day and age that aren't actually. Even some of the tribes in remote areas of the Amazon, the people have made contact with them and given them things. But the fact was we had these old guys from the tribe and trying to pass down and getting the information out of them, and so they put us on the clue that this treasure was probably passed down folklore probably in a cave somewhere. So then we started heading toward caves, I guess. I mean, I wasn't part of any of this putting it together. Neither was the rest of the cast members. This was totally done outside of our realm. We weren't really told a lot about a whole lot of the things. But
So
uh,
when you say we're searching for clues, it's actually like the producer of the show searching for clues or laying the clues out for you.
well, that's kind of what we didn't get our scripts until the next the storyline or whatever until the next the day before or not the day before, but that night or middle of the night, they would give us a what's going to happen tomorrow, type of thing. And so we're just following the sheets, the story sheets that they give us.
Did you stay intense overnight out in the jungle? Where did you stay?
Yeah, sometimes we did. Sometimes we had a place we had to be bust into an area where we had to be picked. We had to get on a boat or we left the opening to the jungle or something. So we weren't always we weren't always camping out. We were staying in like a hostel, some few miles away.
Well, the only good thing about staying at the Sheraton Resort Hotel is it probably had HBO and you could have watched Game of Thrones, but that's a whole other argument. Well,
Yeah.
so we're moving now. We're into the river. We're going up the river. At one point, your boat is trashed. While you guys are out doing something, that somebody gets on the boat and trashes it.
Yeah, apparently, well, some of the local folks must have came around, and that's typical of any country over there in South America. If you leave anything by itself and you don't have a guard, they're gonna try to steal whatever they can steal. And somebody had got on there and trashed it.
And that wasn't part of the storyline. That was something that happened.
I'm not sure if it was part of the storyline. Nobody was caught, so we just came back and the boat was trashed. So
Was
I can't
was
answer
it
that question. Yeah.
was any was wouldn't have production people somebody been staying with the boat?
No, there wasn't anybody with the boat.
Okay. So trying to move it along here because I'm going to run out of time.
Okay.
So eventually you move up the river. You get to a waterfall area um, that may be the end of the line for the search for the treasure of the Trinity. Um, you find some clues there on a big rock, and there's diving going on, trying to find out what's going on. So you're all in that area. In fact, one of the guys loses his backpack filled with all the notes at one point, correct?
Yeah, they had a notebook of the team leader in his backpack, and when he fell in the water, the currents there, it was right next to a waterfall, so it was pushing him down, and he was able to get back to swim somewhat, get back to shore. I think Megan had got a hold of a stick and was able to stick out and pull him back in. But yeah, we were following clues. We found this big rock with some markings on it, and those markings were pointing us to the rock we pulled out of the huge rock that was sitting on it, or in a little crevice, wasn't indicative of that area. And so apparently it came out of this one area where they have these type of round rocks with this coloring. And it was in the river. It was in a river. So that was the next clue that led us to go to this other area of the river.
Well, we're going to have to take a break here. When we come back, we'll talk about what we find, what you found in the caves, And how come there was never really a season 3 of Treasure Quest, the Snake Island, that goes into a different direction? As I say, if you take a look at www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com, a lot of this is laid out on the blog as the program progressed. I did a kind of an update every day on it so that, or every week, so people know what was going on and some of the impressions we got and some of the things we found, like that the mission was sort of a tourist attraction there by a nice city and things like that. They just didn't quite fit into the whole concept of this treasure hunt. The website you might want to look at is www.CaptainKeithPlaskett, that's PLASKETT.com. For more information about him, we will be back right after this. I am here with Keith Plaskett, also known as Cappy, from Treasure Quest Snake Island. I don't know why I forgot the Snake Island part for a minute there. When we left, we were at a waterfall. People were diving into the water. You'd followed the clues that had been scattered for you by the production people, apparently. And I guess Megan dove down into a cave and came up with a rather fascinating icon. Is that right?
Yeah, that's correct. She came up with the Tumi, which was an Inca, where you worship the Tumi god, and part of the Inca religious ceremonial type artifact.
So you're still near Argentina or Uruguay, somewhere around that area. You're way across South America from where the Inca were located.
Yeah, they were in Bolivia, in the Andes of Bolivia, and so we were well east of there, and
so
in northern Argentina.
So this Incan icon suggests obviously an Incan connection and possibly the treasure of the Trinity. And I think they said on the program that, if it was made properly and it had the right amount of gold on it, it could be worth about $250,000. And you guys were all saying, hey, we found the treasure. We found the treasure. This is it. We've got it. It's in this location.
Okay. That's a tough one. That's a tough question.
Well, you don't remember that?
Well, I remember what they put on the show.
That's what I'm saying, on the show.
Yeah, what they put on the show. But what I basically seen was some artifacts that came up. Not only did this Tumi, which was questionable if it was real or not in my mind, and some artifacts that were some bronze artifacts that were clearly Incan or came from Peru, and those looked like they were actually real artifacts.
And so we're now expecting Treasure Quest Snake Island will be back for season 3, because you're right there. You supposedly have the treasure. You've got to make sure your permits are in order and all of that stuff. And you never came back. What happened?
Well, I left the show after, just generally right after that, because I just didn't really feel. I actually had some reality things of my own to be doing on the undersea exploring in Peru. And so I wasn't really feeling comfortable about the way the thing was laid out. And
what do you mean you didn't feel comfortable about the way it was laid out?
Well, we don't see what happens on the show until you actually see it at the same time. We're not told anything.
But you're there.
We're there, but we don't know what they're using or how they're using it. They can split these things. They can reword what we're saying. The technology is amazing. So I just didn't feel comfortable with that. And particularly, some of these artifacts look like they came from Peru, and it took me a lot of years as a gringo, setting up these programs in Peru to gain trust. And so I just didn't feel comfortable where these may have came from or how they got there or anything else. I wasn't sure if they were actually part of this treasure or was seeded or whatever. So
So you're suggesting they might have been
I
planted?
just wanted to get away from this drama, and there were some chemistry issues with people in the crew as well. So
But you said you thought some of this might have been seeded in there. You mean planted in there by the production company?
well, God forbid they ever do that, but it's possible.
Well, you've got an expertise in the area. I mean, you taught in the area. I've seen the credentials that show that you're well versed in this sort of thing. What was your reaction when you saw these things? What did you think?
Well, my forte is in marine archaeology, and I've been doing all the research along the coast, the history of when Pizarro came and the shipwrecks of the Spanish galleons. That's where my forte is, not really terrestrial archaeology. And this is in the realms of terrestrial, but I have seen, because I go to a lot of the museums and we try to find out things we find on shipwrecks of what they are, and I recognize some of these items as being Peruvian. I mean, they were llamas, llamas, and there's no llamas in Argentina.
Well, yes, but
you
but
know
you've got this Incan sun god that they were talking about being worth $250,000. It looks like you found the treasure at the end of the program, and it never comes back. Now you're saying there were some issues with the chemistry of the team.
well, why do you think that? That's the only thing I can guess is why everybody's not. The rest of the team is not on Treasure Quest 3, except for one of the players. One of the guys that was on the Treasure Quest 1 and 2, Jeremy Whalen.
Yes. And well, were you fired, or did they just let you know we're not doing another season? How did you or did you just sort of quit?
No, they hadn't told us anything for some time after we actually seen season 2. And I'm a sea captain. I've got projects, but the contracts that we sign is like they have first rights to us, so we can't really go do anything, get anything long term going, unless we quit, unless we get out of the contract. So that's basically what I did. I was like, I don't get time for this, and so I decided to I wrote them and told them, look, I want to be released from my contract, and that was before I found out that that they had made changes on the program.
What?
And so that's where I'm at. I'm actually doing the real thing. The rest of these folks I don't know what they're doing right now.
Well, I keep coming back to the Incan sun god that they found, and worth supposedly an awful lot of money. Do you know what happened to that artifact?
No, I have no idea if it's even real or what. I have my suspicions is it probably wasn't, but we're not privy to any of this stuff. We're just meat on the string. Go here, do that, and we weren't given lines to talk or to say. We would just put in situations and we acted or felt. Personally, if I was in that situation, this is what I'd say. This is what I do. And so that's where I was at on this.
Well, let's.
I don't know anything about what happened. I didn't even hear about the price tag on this until you'd mentioned it. I mean, I don't know where this price tag came from. Was it on the show? Did
Yes.
they say it on the show?
Yeah, absolutely. You think I made that up?
No. No.
Well, I wanted to talk about the episode that really got under my skin, which was the one where you had the flashback to Vietnam, and I don't have time to get into that fairly.
Yeah.
I will say, as a Vietnam veteran, I've never had a flashback like that, which is not to say yours wasn't real, but I have had moments of anxiety, and it may be triggered by a old rock and roll song on the radio or something like that, I've got to punch the button and get away from that right away. So I understand that sort of thing. I think that what annoyed me about that was the cheesy announcement at the end about the veterans. I thought that was very exploitative of the whole thing. You had said that a cameraman held you back while the rest of the team went off.
Yeah, he had acted like he'd hurt himself, and there was a lot of stuff going on at the same time. Several people around, but they had let off, and he said, "Oh, I can't I need some help. And so, because he was like the last guy, you know, and so I usually trail back on the last person of the cast members when we're going down the trail, because I want to see what's going on, and I don't want to have any surprises. So anyway, he got hurt. Said he got hurt, and something was in his, you know, he thought he cut his foot or something in his boot. So I'm thinking, oh God, man, what's going on here? So the chemistry, the all the drama going on behind the scenes, which I'm not going to go into. Basically, I was pretty stressed out at that point. And let me say one thing, that it wasn't just the PTSD from Vietnam. The most recent in my older age was in Iraq, and so I had double dose of this. You know, so you can't really equate it to just the one war. So I took his boot off, and it was like, you know, he was like yelling. It was like, oh man, it's like this hurts so bad and everything. And so and then we stopped. You know, he said, okay, I'm just kidding. I'm just joking. I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here? You know. He says, look, just wanted to hold you back. We're going to try to do a scene to see how far they go before they realize you're missing. You know.
Okay. I got to stop you there, and I hesitate to do it because it's great, but I've just run out of time.
Okay. Right.
I thank you for taking time to chat with us before you head back to South America. I love the insights you've given us to Treasure Quest, Snake Island, and how things developed and how the program was put together and that sort of thing. What's your website again for the people?
It's www.captain, CAPTAIN, Keith, KEITH, Plaskett, PLASKETT.com, CaptainKeithPlaskett.com.
Okay. Thank you very much, Keith. Appreciate your time, and please stay in touch.
Thanks, Kevin. Thanks.
We'll chat with you later.
Okay.
Thank you. For those of you who'd like more information about this, I'll have something up on my blog here in the next couple of days at www.kevinrandle.blogspot.com. If you wish to get back into the UFO field, which we will do, hopefully in the next week or so, I hope to have David O'Leary on the program to talk about the Project Blue Book on History Channel and the controversy about how that program is put together. So we'll be talking about that. I have some stuff about that on the blog as well for the UFOs. Take a look at Roswell in the 21st century, because I would appreciate that. And the latest is Encounters in the Desert, which deals with the Lonnie Zamora sighting, which we talked about on the program a number of times with Ben Moss and Tony Angiola and some of those people. You can get a good look at that. I will be back with another special edition of a different perspective just as soon as I can get it put together. Thank you all, and good night.